Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Zenphi's HTTP API trigger to start a Zenphi flow. This trigger is extremely useful when you want to integrate Zenphi with other systems which can make HTTP call. For example, in today's case, we're going to create a flow which gets started when an invoice payment event happens in Stripe. Actually, we're not going to do the Stripe bit. I'm going to mimic the event, but you get the idea. So to get it started, let's go and create a HTTP API trigger. I'm gonna give it a name, Stripe payments. Now, when you first create a flow, you don't have the invocation URL yet. You don't have the information to start the flow yet. To get that information, you just need to publish it once, and you get the URL. So if you go to the invocation tab, here you see two sets of URL. They do the same thing. They just give you two different ways of calling this flow. First one, you can call it by, you can start this flow by making a call to this URL and passing this value as a HTTP header, or you can simply use this URL to just start the flow. Now, when you start a flow, you normally, most of the time, you want to pass in some information. In our case, a Stripe, when an invoice payment event occurs, pass a JSON payload like this. As you can see, it's a quite an involved payload. It's got quite a few properties, but fear not. The good news is that working with these in Zenphi is quite easy. So normally what you want to do after, most of the time, is to add an action called Convert Json to object. So this action enables you to get the payload that's being passed to you and convert it to a strongly type, easy to use object. So you don't have to work your way around JSON path, JSON query, or string parsing. Now it's quite easy to use. We go here and say, what do you want me to convert? I say, go and get the HTTP body from the trigger and use this schema to convert it. Now, if you have got this schema, you can just put it here. If you don't, like what I'm doing here, I just go and get a sample of the payload which could be passed to us, paste it here, and say infer schema. Now, the sample, normally you can get it from the documentation of the third-party applications like Stripe, or if they don't have it in the documentation, you can run the flow once and use a log to history to output a sample of the body to the history and then use it from there. Now that we've done this, I save it, and I'm gonna rename this to the Stripe event object. Now, if I want to show you the output of it, so if you look at it, it goes and convert that all those text, JSON text, to a strongly typed, easy to use object. Now that you've done this, from here, for example, say we want to go and add the content of that event to a Google Sheet. I've already created a Google Sheet. Okay, now let's start mapping the values. So for the ID, I'm gonna go and say go here and get this value. If I want to show you in the JSON, basically that's this value of the first item. For the date, I'm gonna get this value called created date. But as you can see, Stripe is passing that as an epoch date or Unix date. But then again, the good news is that we've got an action for that in Zenphi. So if I go and say, I'll just search for epoch, and because I want to output it in a human readable datetime format, so I go here and say, go and get the value of created. If it's a millisecond, you just turn it on. Maybe I'll put it in this format for me. And now coming back here, I go and say, we'll get the value of formatted result there. For the customer email, same thing. I'm going to go down here. I believe it is part of this object, customer email. For the currency, let's go and get the currency from the object. Let's go here, there, and currency. And for the amount, I'm gonna go and say amount paid. So I say amount paid, and that's pretty much it. If I just save this. Now, the way I'm going to test this, let me publish this, is by using this tool called Postman, which mimics HTTP call. Now, first, let me go and get the HTTP API URL from here. Get this URL, paste it here, change the method to post, and I use this value as the body. Copy. I might here go to body and say row, paste, and change this to JSON. Now all I need to do, press send. The request has been sent. That is great. And if I go back here, as you can see, the values get added to the sheet. If you look at the date, created date got converted to the human readable date, the format that we specified. So one more thing to call out here, that we support HTTP body, and also if I go to the HTTP API here, we support form data values as well. So form data, if there's another way of passing value to HTTP trigger, some system only supports passing through form data. The good news is that we support that through Zenphi, and the form data comes in as a JSON value. We convert it for you to a JSON value payload, and you can then use the convert JSON to object action to convert it to an easy to use object. Well, hopefully you find this useful, and let us know if you got any questions or suggestions. Thank you very much.